This is the Criterion Creeps podcast, and tonight we're talking about That Obscure Object of Desire from 1977, directed by Louis Bunuel. This film's tagline, Louis Bunuel's masterpiece. And the synopsis for this here film. After dumping a bucket of water on a beautiful young woman from the window of a train car, wealthy Frenchman Matthew regales his fellow passengers with the story of the dysfunctional relationship between himself and the young woman in question, a fiery 19-year-old flamenco dancer named Conchita. What follows is a tale of cruelty, depravity, and lies, the very building blocks of love. So RJ, Bunuel, he's back.
Yeah, as I stated last week in the outro, this is like one of our high hitters so far. Yeah. He's got to be like number 5 for most frequent in the first 130.
He climbed up real quick too, because I mean this is what,
3 or 4? 3. I'll be able to tell you because I've only seen Bunuel's for this initiative.
Yeah, Chambermaid and Discreet Charm.
And then just this.
Yeah, 3.
So 3. But still, he is one of the heavy hitters. Now, he's like number 5.
Yeah, and it's all been in the later half. It's all in these, like the 100 range. Okay, well, this, RJ, is his final film. Before and he dies. This was
what did he die of?
I don't know. He was old, I guess.
Okay, good. Leave it at that.
You tell me what Wikipedia says. But so this was a first-time watch for me. Cool. I didn't know what to expect. I know this movie had my main man, Fernando Rey. That guy is great. Remember him from Discreet Charm. Yeah, and he's the baddie in French Connection. And just all in all, like a renowned European actor. But yeah, I think this movie is pretty great, RJ. It was actually it exceeded my expectations. I didn't know what I was going in to expect. Sometimes you watch a movie and you're just going to be like, yeah, I don't know. These Criterions sometimes, sometimes they're just kind of there. Sometimes they're the element of crime. But
oh god.
So yeah, man, I think this movie is really good. Cool. I think actually of the 3 we watched, I think it's my favorite of the 3. I think it takes everything that's kind of in Discreet Charm of the bourgeoisie and it tightens it all up. Because instead of like having like a bunch of different couples and stories kind of all going on simultaneously and a terrorist subplot, it takes only one guy in his crazy story and all these like kind of vignettes and stuff like that. It has a framing device that actually ties directly into the story because it's actually part of the narrative. So instead of like the scenes of like the bourgeoisie people walking around in a field over and over again, you get the scene with him actually telling the story to the people in the train car. And yeah, so this story we get. How long did it take for you, RJ, to realize that Conchita was played by 2 different actors?
I'm not going to lie to you, Jarrett.
Yeah.
Because I don't ever do that. I'm honest, even if it's embarrassing. I only realized it when you mentioned it just now. I didn't realize there was 2 actresses at all. Am I a hard R? Is there a reason that I didn't realize this?
Are you kidding me?
I had no idea.
What?
And, I didn't.
What?
When does the switch happen? Is it like
constant?
Is it like
it's effortless. It's like every scene, like every other scene, it changes. There's sometimes in a scene the actors change. It's 2 different women.
Jarrett,
what?
I had no idea. I feel like this is gonna come against me at some time by some reviewer,
RJ Baylog.
In some way. Okay, listen.
What?
I didn't know. And I still don't know, and I'm going to look this up right now because I don't fully believe it. Hey, leave me alone, all right? I had no idea.
Oh, man.
Let me see if I can figure this out. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention.
You clearly weren't paying attention. Like, 'cause it's like,
I watched the movie.
How can you, it's 2 different women. They don't look alike at all.
Okay. All right. So which scenes? Okay, I know Carol Bouquet. I recognize her. She's the one who gets beat up. and she's in like those. Okay, and then Angela Molina. What scene? Oh no, wait, Angela Molina's the one who gets beat up. Jesus, I have no idea. Oh my God. Okay, let me look at some pictures here. Let me see if I can figure this out.
Do we need to like put this episode on pause so you can go watch the movie? Is that?
I did watch the movie. I know a lot about this movie. I like this movie.
Oh, good. Even though you missed like the most like fascinating like bit of like filmmaking decision in it, where it's like, oh, he just changes the actors between scenes, and it's like it adds to the frustration, I guess, of Matthew, because he thinks he's got it nailed down, but then she's so capricious and just changes her mind. You know how women are, and it just adds to his chasing of that desire that he just can't have. And you didn't even notice that. Like,
here's the thing.
Oh my God.
Here's the thing.
Go on.
I could have lied and said that I didn't notice until some point, but I wanted to be honest, even though this will be a huge strike against me forever.
Yep.
However, maybe I was so entranced by this movie that those small details, those local details, Jared, were not my focal point. I was looking at the global details. You know that old saying, the trees for the forest?
All right. Okay.
I was looking at the forest. I wasn't looking at the trees.
Has there ever been water this wet before, too?
Only by Lawrence Fishburne, and only a few people will get that reference, but I had no idea. I feel like these two women, I'm looking at them now, they have similar eyebrows. And don't ever tell Andrea this, because she gets on me all the time. I don't ever remember people's names, and she's like, it's because you don't give a shit about anyone else. And I'm like, no, that's not true. It's like, no, it's true. She's like, it's like I forget people's names like immediately, and she's like, it's because you don't care. It's like, I care, but I feel like this would probably file under her claim that I don't care. I feel like I'm pretty observant.
This seems like the strangest thing to me, because you were always about like, you always are like
small details.
Yeah, you look at actors' faces and you're like, this person looks like so and so, and I just can't unsee that. And it's like, yeah, so here it's like, well, these are the two different people playing the same character, and there's no comment about it because no one else. It's not a plot point. Like, there's no attention brought to it other than the fact that you should notice that, hey, this is the same person, but they're two different women playing the same character.
Okay, I'm looking now. There's a scene where they're both on the couch. I'm looking on our boy Fernando's thing. So if you go between the pictures, you can tell. But it's just because of the nose. So one of the women has like a bigger bridge in the nose.
Yeah.
But they have similar eyebrows. They wear their hair different. That's true. But I thought that was just part of her character, because she's like kind of like scattered. She's all over the place. Oh baby. Well, whatever. You know what? I'm gonna stand by it, because people don't own up to things that much. I had no idea. Wow. I watched this movie. I enjoyed this movie, and I'm not ashamed. I'm not embarrassed. It's fine. I had no idea, but there it is.
Okay, well, we got that. We got that out of the way. Some people might not even realize it. Some. I would like to know, anyone listening to this, if you watched the movie first, did you realize? Yes,
I didn't.
They all did. Everyone did, but you. You are a unique snowflake here in this scenario.
Well, that's fine. You know what? Maybe I'm just on this next level. Jarrett, you ever heard the young kids say that next level shit?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Maybe that's me.
Maybe. So this movie opens up. Fernando Rey returning to the scene of the crime. He's making plans. Actually, before that, he makes some travel plans, booking some train trips. He's leaving a town. He's very sad. You don't know why. He goes back to this this palatial rich man's house, and his butler's like, "Oh, she's left." And he's like, "Oh, that's fine. She can leave." And they start going around the room. He's like, "Oh, there's like blood all over this pillow." He's like, just burn it." He's like, "There's panties over here. Burn that too. Just throw it all out. Get it out of here." What about these shoes? And it's like, I get rid of that as well. And then he goes and boards his train, and then you start meeting the people he'll be taking this long journey with, including the psychiatrist or psychologist dwarf, and a woman with her child, and a judge, some sort of lawman. I think is that everybody in the train at the beginning?
Pretty well,
Yep.
yeah. Yep.
And of course, we see this this beautiful young woman. She comes like looking around the train. Looks like she's got quite the shiner. And Fernando Reyes looking over at her and he's like, "Oh man, I don't want to deal with this right now." He makes some comments to like one of the train conductor types on the train, and he's like, "Come on, I gotta get you some money." It's all quiet dialogue, and then he leaves, and he returns with a bucket of water, which he then dumps all over her head. And he returns, and everyone's like, "Well, you look like such a respectable person. You wouldn't do this without like good reason." And he begins to regale them with a tale of this man who is a widower, and he's just kind of going through life and settling in and doesn't know what to do. Visiting a friend, and he sees the new housemaids come along, and she's quite the catch. And he starts making some motions toward her, making some moves, because it's been a while for him. And hey, you look at a fine piece of tail. You look like you'd be willing to do what I want because I've got money.
Are you talking to me, or are you talking about the movie?
Well, I mean, I've got those Patreon dollars. I mean,
oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Just cashed out today, buddy. And then so what happens is throughout the rest of this film, it's kind of like a cat and mouse chase between Matthew and his object of desire, Conchita.
Conchita? I only know one Conchita, and it is that lady from 2.5 Men. Jared, have you ever watched that show? You know that lady I'm talking about?
I don't.
Conchita. Okay, it doesn't matter. Keep going.
So, this movie is just literally scene after scene, vignettes of Matthew's attempts of wooing this woman, and the absurdity of that, and the kind of the dark humor, the drawl humor that we've come to expect from Bunuel, his observation of humanity, and just like desperation and like kind of how people get hung up on things like irrationally. I think we've all been there at some point in our life with something. And maybe you, just me. But yeah, it's just people do dumb things over and over again. And then we just has all these like little scenes here and there. I honestly I was just so caught up in this movie. I didn't really write a ton of notes. All I know is I really enjoyed watching it. It's a really well told idea. It's metaphorical and shit. And I think I don't know what it tells you about anyone in particular or anything. I think it'd be easy enough as the Who Hates comments will reveal that this movie is like misogynistic and hateful toward women and stuff like that. But it feels like the idea there is that like Louis Bunuel is saying all women are like this. And I don't think he's saying that at all. I think he's just saying that like this is a story. This is like one particular example of that. And you look at these things as like, anyone could be in this position of something that they don't want, and then the other side is also in conflict with that, and they don't know what they want, and one person does want it, and it just goes back and forth. And it doesn't have to make sense. It's just like a set piece for this whole movie to kind of transpire, entertainingly so. Because I thought this movie like is effortless to watch. And really well made. There's these great little image flourishes in this thing that like I like quite a bit. One in particular that jumps out at me is there's there's like again, because it's like a 70s Bunuel film, there's like this like terrorist subplot. I guess like terrorism, I mean, it's a thing today, but it seemed to be like almost like a novel, charming thing in the 70s.
It's playful.
Yeah, it's playful. Murder and robbery and such. But there's this really great one where like there's a car bombing that happens right in front of Matthew while he's like in the back of a car, and it's like an inconvenience that it's happened. But there's this, it's awesome because there's like this explosion, and the plume of the explosion goes up, and it looks exactly like the trees in the area, and it's just a subtle thing, and you're just like, oh, that's interesting. Like this is a visual. It's like yeah, when you look at it, explosions kind of do look like trees. For whatever reason, that's just the way that they kind of look. And he films that, and you're like, yeah, that's something that like a lot of filmmakers who do explosions don't think about them looking like trees. It's the farthest thing from their mind because they have different objectives. So this kind of is a Bunuelian surrealist kind of touch of just like images, like just putting images together that just like run in together. But yeah, I've kind of babbled on about this movie enough. RJ, despite clearly not paying very close attention to this and saying you already like this movie, what did you think of That Obscure Object of Desire?
Believe it or not, I watched this movie and it had my full attention. I wasn't looking at my cell phone. I wasn't reading a magazine. I was watching this movie, as unbelievable as that may be. I have a few things to follow up before I start. I have figured out the death of Louis Bunuel. Louis waited for death for a long time, like a good Spaniard. Quote, and when he died, he was ready. His relationship with death was like that one has with a woman. He felt the love, hate, tenderness, ironical detachment of a long relationship, and he didn't want to miss the last encounter, that moment of union. I hope I will die alive, he told me. At the end, it was as he had wished. His last words were, I'm dying. End quote. From longtime friend and collaborator Jean-Claude Carrier. And I think that speaks a lot to this movie, or else I wouldn't have read it. And then also I have just discovered on the two Conchitas, Bunuel claimed that his unusual casting decision was his own idea after drinking 2 dry martinis, saying, quote, if I had to list all the benefits derived from alcohol, it would be endless, end quote. Bunuel's a cool dude. And then it says others have reported that Carré, the guy who was with him when he died, had first broached the idea while developing the film's scenario, but it had been brushed off by Bunuel as a whim of a rainy day. So I've done some research now.
Yep.
I know what this movie's about. And this is just going to help with what I try to do usually. I don't really look at a lot of reviews of movies before we talk about them because I don't want to say what other people are saying because people can find that on the internet. My role, as always, is that first time watch for probably 90% of these movies, not all of them, but like 90%. And it's like, here's my first genuine response. So that all said, yes, I liked this movie. I think this movie has a lot of good stuff going for it. I wasn't totally dick blown off by this movie, to quote our old scale between dick getting blown off, not blown off, and other things. Intact. So it wasn't totally blown off. And the only reason for that was I did find it a little tiresome near the end where I was like, I kind of get it. I was like, can't move on a little bit, but I'll get there. I think the big thing with this is I think there's a lot to pull out of this where say you were in one of those kind of like snooty, pretentious film classes. I think you could watch this movie and there would be a whole pile to unpack, as the kids say. There's a lot of unpacking on this thing where there's a lot of metaphors and allusions to things where I don't totally know what they all mean, but I see that he's trying to do stuff. So the ones that I do see is like that kind of connection between those like revolt rebellions and the terrorists and what that's like being in a relationship, I think, where it's like two people who come together and they don't necessarily have this like idyllic relationship where it's like, oh, I love you, you love me, we make each other better. It's kind of like, oh, we make each other worse. But it's kind of, they play it off in a way that you kind of like want them to work it out eventually. Not like, say, Sid and Nancy, where you're like, these people both suck. I don't want either of them to be happy.
Or
Fuck
succeed.
Those people. Or succeed. You kind of hope that it's like, I hope they can find a nice compromise here where their lives can like work together. And it's kind of like the revolts and the terrorism. It's like, you know what? They don't really get along, but I hope they could maybe find a nice compromise. So there's that. There's this new information I have about two Conchitas, which I feel like you could pull a lot out of. I didn't know that going into this, so I have no thoughts on that, but I feel like you could do that. And then there's really subtle scenes throughout this movie. Like there's one scene where when he goes to the restaurant and there's a fly in his water, and the waiter's like, he's like, I've been chasing that fly for 3 days, and just by chance he happened to dive into your water glass. And he's like, yeah, it happens, man. And they take it away. And I feel like that could be seen as kind of like a casual throwaway scene, but I feel like there's more there. Do I know what it means? No. I'm not going to pretend like I know what they're talking about, but I feel like you could take a lot out of that and you could make grand assumptions about what that means. But anyways, there's a lot of things like that, like metaphors, illusions, things. What I was saying, I think you could pull a lot from this. I mostly really like the story. I like the dynamic between the two of them, or three of them, I guess. They have a good chemistry, and for the most part, I'm on board with the story where I think the movie does a really good job of going back and forth between who you kind of side with, because I think there's this really nice like split between where the movie starts and you see him dump the water on her and you're like, oh shit, she must be a bad bitch to deserve something like that. But then you see the way he like kind of like forwards himself on her and the way he treats her, and you're like, oh shit, is he the bad guy?
Like having her deported, essentially.
Yeah, like having her deported.
Indirectly. He's just like, I want you to do something about her. Okay. Off she goes.
Yeah, off she goes. But there's like that, so you're like, oh shit, was he the bad guy? And then like I feel like it kind of goes back and forth. You're like, oh, she's really shitty to him. He's really shitty to her. You're like, and then by the time you get to the end, you're like, they both suck. But that's why they kind of have this play between each other. So I think the movie succeeds in that, right? Where it's a really good balancing act between, it's like, he's shitty, she's shitty, back and forth.
You know
like,
what this movie reminded me of a bit of?
What?
Phantom Thread.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like that. Yeah. And it's kind of like, it's like Phantom Thread. It's a Rebecca movie. It's Bunuel, the man who didn't fear death. And his last words were, I'm dying.
I'm dying.
I'm dying.
When you were talking about the drinking, that reminds me of I read his autobiography, My Last Sigh, and there's one story of him like going into depth about like how to make drinks and stuff like that, because he did like drinking, and he talked about his like his perfect bar, which is just like a hole in the ground. Mm-hmm. Like it's like there's no TVs. It is there simply to go and drink in. There's like nothing on the walls. It's just like, oh, here's a table and some chairs, and it's like dim, and you just go to drink.
See, the more Bunuel we have, the more I appreciate who he was. Like, we started with Discreet Charm, and I was like, yeah, it's not bad. I don't love it, totally. We hit Diary of a Chambermaid, and I was like, this is pretty cool. And then we hit this one now, and I was like, yeah, I'm on board with this Bunuel guy. He's hitting all the right spots, and then hearing his drinking stories and talking about death, I like him. But back to this. I like the structure of this story where it's like, the strangers on a train and then a story within a story.
Was there times where you like completely forgot, like there's like those moments where you forgot that that's the like the thing that he's like telling the story on the train, and then it like cuts back and there's like all these people like now like standing around listening to him tell these like stories about like weird sex and depravity and like
the weirdest part was when he like, so I actually did have it in mind, but it was because when he's talking about when he was like trying to get laid, and she was wearing the like chastity belt thing,
and getting it off of her.
He's like getting it off of her, and I was like, whoa! I was like, this is a pretty racy story to be telling in front of that lady's kid. And then it cuts to the scene where it's like her kid and another kid are listening to it, and the mom's like, maybe you guys should go play somewhere. And I was like, Jesus!
Go look out the window while mom continues listening to the story.
Yeah, I thought it was going to get played off where, like, the kid was asleep or something, and that's why he was telling it. But it was like, no. Bunuel's like, no, kids love that stuff. They would be there listening to. So I thought that was funny. But, no, I really like the structure where I don't know. It's nice. It can when you do it well, it really shows where
Bunuel.
when you do it bun well, it really shows where it's like that story within a story. And then there's lots of shitty versions of that.
Yeah.
Everyone's seen
Oh
one.
yeah, of
But
course.
he
Like
does it really well.
Titanic.
Oh yeah, that's fun. There's a lot of other stuff I like in this though. I like the dirty hobo shower where the girl just like is like washing herself with a rag in the sink. I was like, oh yeah,
It's
I've
very
seen people do that in real life.
it's very European.
It's very European. I think it's horrible and disgusting, but I have seen people do that. It's very real.
Sometimes you just gotta take care of the hot zones.
The hot zones.
Yeah.
My goodness. Um, there's some lines in this that I think are really funny where after he gets them deported and he's talking to his butler and the butler's like, how long are you going to be gone for? And he's like, I don't know, a week, maybe a year or two. It's like such a dramatic incline. I was like, yeah, I like that. You tell him, man. I like the idea that when this guy's like, I'm just going to go buy this girl. And he's like talking in front of her. He's like, I'm going to buy you. And she's like, no, I don't want to be bought. I'm not that kind of girl. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to buy you though. It's funny that he's like doing it in front of her, but then behind her at the same time.
Yeah.
It's comical. It's comical, Jarrett. And then one thing that I loved, and this is going to be a mark in the Criterion collection that I don't think will ever be upheld, is there is a scene where they catch a mouse in a trap, which I think is a metaphor for something like The Fly. And you know what, Jared? They use a fake mouse.
They do.
And I thought that was amazing.
Really classy.
I was like, you know what? Look, it's not that hard.
Makes up for that goose in Diary of a Chambermaid.
Oh, yeah, when that guy's like beating the shit out of that goose, he's just punching it in the fucking head and the body. Yeah, that one was bad, but maybe Bunuel learned his lesson. But I really like that. I was like, bless, man, bless up, as the kids say. On fleek.
Yeah.
But anyways, I did think that was terrific because it was like, look, it doesn't look bad, but you can tell it's not real. And I appreciate that because they didn't actually just kill an animal for this like 5-second scene.
Mm-hmm.
So good on them. But anyways, that's pretty much my rub on that obscure object of desire. I thought it was a good show. Did I notice that there was 2 actresses in this movie? No. But you know what, Jarrett? I'm just gonna own it. I'll just own it. Whatever, it's fine. I don't care.
It kind of brings to mind. You're not noticing this. It's like someone looking at a Rorschach test, and all they see is like my mother's brains scattered all over the floor. That's
Who, me?
Yeah.
I feel like it'd go to the other way. You'd be like, "What is this?" And be like, "I don't know, a bunch of ink or something."
Well, see, that's like I could get someone seeing that, but
Yeah.
but you go in the opposite direction of like, what? Those are 2 different people. It's like I will not be having you. You'd make a terrible police officer. That's what I'm saying.
It'd be like a Rorschach of a full black circle, and be like, "Well, this is like women's suffrage in the 1600s, and it's very clear to see." I am as surprised as you are. As you said, I usually get hung up on these little details.
You do
all the time.
All the time.
But maybe I just like this movie, and I was just into it.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that it took me the first like 3 times it happened for me to click. I'm like, oh, it's different people. Because sometimes I'm like, I think a lot of people look the same, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever. These are different characters. But I'm like, oh wait, no, I see what he's doing.
Maybe it's just that good.
And there's like kind of like a throw in there where it's like, I think the movie poster for this is like a mirror is involved and someone looking through a mirror, and there's sort of a whatever you want to call it, duplicity or a mirror imaging, but even though it's like reflecting something that's not there. Yeah, man, this movie I think is like, yeah, it's super, like I'm actually was really surprised how good it was. Because like people don't talk about this one as much. I don't think it's like Discreet Charm or The Bourgeoisie, or like there's like the other big Bunuel movies like Exterminating Angel, Simon of the Desert. I don't think it's talked about a ton, but like yeah, then there's like old Un Chien Andalou, his legendary short film. But yeah, like I think like again, also considering it's got Fernando Rey, who's also in Discreet Charm. I think this is a great follow up, and like I said, it's more focused. I'm trying to think of like any other little things I really liked about this, because there's a lot. Like I think this movie is just really good and a pleasure to watch, and I think more people should watch it. How did you feel when we finally got to when Matthew gets to like lay hands on his woman after he's had enough of her?
Do you want me to say what I really feel, or do
Yeah.
you want me to say the version that's friendly for the podcast for all listeners that it's not incriminating?
Say the friendly version.
I feel like, even though, I got to state this very explicitly, even though, no, it is not the right thing to do, there is some satisfaction in it, because I feel like he gets shit on a lot, and it's like his moment to kind of take control or take power, like not in like a misogynistic way or anything like that. It's just like this guy gets shit on so much, and then he has like one way to like act out. Yes, violence is not the answer, but it is
Wink.
a little satisfying. It's
Wink.
it's a little satisfying because it's just like finally this guy stands up for himself.
Yeah.
Should he beat the shit out of this lady? No, but I'm glad he stands up for himself.
Yeah.
After he watches his lady like bang Spaniard dancers in front of him.
But he doesn't see. He leaves. And then he comes back and they finish. And then we're told.
Why would he believe that? Where it's like,
would he? Well, maybe she's telling the truth. Maybe she's lying because maybe she because you could always view everything that she says as completely the truth. Because there's times where he wants to believe what she's saying, but as us, the jaded viewer, we're like, oh come on, dude, quit buying this line of crap. But everything she says always has like a certain like credibility to it. If you wanted it to be, if you lend her that. Sure. And again, I think at some point or time, people have been in that similar situation. Like they've been in a bad relationship, and they've been like, "Well, maybe this person's not like, maybe they got a good excuse." But
you just don't know the man.
But when people have excuse after excuse after excuse, it builds to a point, builds to a climax, and blue balls aren't going to take care of themselves. You know what I'm saying,
Jarrett? I don't like what you do all the time.
Waka waka.
Hey, did you notice that there was 2 actresses that played Conchita in this movie?
We'll see who of the people who hate this movie. Let's see if any of them make a comment about it.
Oh, okay.
Cool. Half a star from Kathy Cocotte. I don't know.
Kathy Cocotte.
This is misogynistic and creepy as hell, and I feel sick watching it. There are multiple scenes of attempted rape and domestic violence. The whole fucking premise of the film is a misogynistic trope. I read several reviews, and not a single one mentioned this at all. Says the emoji. And all the men on Letterboxd in your reviews saying this film was funny or joking about blue balls. Fuck you.
So I see some trends. This Kathy Cocotte is all over the fucking place. As we talked in the preamble, she just gave Cam 5 stars, which is I don't know. I've never seen it. You did. But favorite films include Wicker Man, The Graduate, Hiroshima Mon Amour, All About Eve, which you're a big fan of.
I like that.
But,
not that Hiroshima Mon Amour. That movie's boring.
Here are a few kickers, Jared. Phantom Thread, which we were just talking about, 2.5 stars, which seems weird. Their watch list has Cleo 5 to 7, which I'm only mentioning because I feel like that movie's been mentioned a lot lately. But a lot of their 5-star movies are very suspect. There's one good one, JFK. That is absolutely a 5-star movie. But then they have Call Me By Your Name, I, Tonya, Rocky Horror Picture Show, Death Becomes Her. That's a pretty dope movie. 5 stars, probably not, but I do like that show. So this lady is all over the place. It's all over the place.
Ready for another one?
Hit it.
Dennis Kelly, 1 star. Man, Bunuel really hates women, doesn't he? Every character in this film is a horrible person. Saw this one in theaters, and I think I am just as mad at the audience as I am with the film itself. I may have never seen their faces, but the sections they laughed at were enough for me to paint a picture of just what kind of people they were.
Man, is that all?
That's it.
Okay, Dennis Kelly. Favorite films, F for Fake, Bicycle Fees, The Wages of Fear, and Millennium Actress. Pretty diverse little group there. They just gave Backdraft 3.5 stars, which that's pretty fair. Here we go, though. Top directors. Jacques Tati, Jim Jarmusch, David Cronenberg and David Lynch, Hayao Miyazaki, Guillermo del Toro, Edgar Wright, Taiki Waititi, Louis Malle, and Shijun Suzuki. So a lot of Criterion alum, but 5-star films. There's some good ones in here. They got some good ones like Moonlight, the Michel Gondry music video collection, Iron Giant. But they also have some films like Empire Strikes Back, Mission Impossible 1. Nobody thinks that's a 5-star film. Your new favorite movie, Hereditary. I don't know. They're all over the place. Good movies, bad movies, dump movies.
Yeah, I mean, okay. And one more here from Jacques Polologaga. 1 star. Maybe something went over my head here, but after viewing, I couldn't help that this would be a movie championed by men's rights activists who want to appear cultured. If it's meant to be satire, I think I missed something.
Ooh, baby. Jacques Polologaga. Jarrett, would you believe that they are a big fan of Fight Club and a big fan of your buddy Kevin Smith's Clerks?
What?
They just gave No Country for Old Men 4.5 stars. Okay. Seems a little bit...
a little low.
A little low out there.
Sure.
But something like, well, Good, Bad, and the Ugly. Fine. Something called Not Quite Hollywood from 2008. Why is that a favorite movie of someone's? I don't know. 5-star movies: Mean Girls, Son of Rambo, Kick-Ass, Incredibles 2. Just garbage movies.
What were those first 2 movies you mentioned? Clerks?
Clerks and Fight Club.
Yeah. See, like, those movies are, if you want to get on about, like, toxic masculinity and shit like that, and
I'm aware.
anti-woman stuff, those movies definitely have demonstrate those attributes as well. So I find it interesting that this movie gets singled out. It's so weird. Like, okay, so my criticism of this viewpoint, this like way of looking at this movie, and I guess it's like it's hard to dismiss somebody if this is like overwhelms them, and this is not a majority view. This is like a pretty like small group of people who don't like this movie, because overall people do like it and don't have these problems. But like, how can you watch anything and like view like and make these projections about like the people who watch these movies and the people who make these movies based on these things? I mean, I guess I've done it myself, like with Chasing Amy, if we want to talk about Kevin Smith, whereas like I think it's like, well, he wrote and directed everything element of it, and it's like these are like, he prides himself on these are his characters. Whereas Louis Bunuel is like writing movies about like rich people and writing like, I don't know, he's working in a different realm. And I guess it's unfortunate to me that I guess that people might not be able to get through like literary references and be able to strip out what's there and how it's acting and stuff like that. But if it doesn't fit into their I guess agenda, then they dismiss it, and like, and it's not for them, and that's fine. They can move on. No one's making anybody watch that obscure object of desire. That's never going to happen.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I've never seen this movie, but you could tell me if it fits in toxic masculinity. But Welcome to the Dollhouse by your buddy,
by Todd Saul.
Yeah.
No, that movie's just like misanthropic. Like, it hates everybody.
Okay. That's the last movie this person watched. They gave it 3.5.
Oh, they're just turds. That movie's great. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
This thing that we do.
I ain't gonna lose sleep over it.
With these people, or
yeah.
Yeah, so actually, while we're on it, this Jacques Pollige has only given like 7 1-star films. Or 1-star ratings.
This is one of them.
That Obscure Object of Desire, Alien vs. Predator Requiem, Alien Covenant, Max Payne with Mark Wahlberg, Grease 2, 50 Shades of Grey, Without a Paddle, and Resident Evil. So I don't really know
Wow.
why that obscure object of desire fits in with these movies. I feel like this person maybe doesn't want to watch Criterion movies and just watch one.
or this movie just, man, it rubbed them wrong, because it's like
Bizarre.
they're seeing things. I don't know, maybe this idea that like anyone could be like people can be horrible, and it's like they don't like that, they're uncomfortable with that, because I don't know, I don't see it. I don't see Louis Bunuel making any sort of statement about women. Like it's like literally called that obscure object of my desire, or it's like, yeah, this character is completely objectify this woman into like a desire, like it's not even a human being anymore, and then like things play out in sort of like this ridiculous way, because they're still human beings trapped in, like, these ideas are inhabiting like human beings that are in a movie, and it's like an idea playing out, and then it like all ends in a fucking explosion, and you don't know if they're dead or not, or things are just going to end horribly no matter what in the streets of Europe. Like it's not like it is an explosive ending. Like things don't end well. That seems to be the thing. So I don't think Louis Buñuel's going, yes, I think this is a great way of society to work. Like, if you think, you're insane.
People suck.
Yeah.
And that's about it, I guess.
Yep, they do. And I think
suck.
I think this movie demonstrates that too. I don't think there's like I said, a lot of bad people in this movie, but it's still very watchable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know, Jarrett. I'm just.
After the break, I'm dying.
I'm dying.